everybody. My name is Gina Cavalier, and this is the Liberated Healer podcast. And today I have Masuda Mohamadi on the line, and we are going to talk to her about this fabulous book, Unlock the Powers of Your Chakras. Welcome, Masuda.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Well, you have a really interesting story, and if you don't mind, I want to start off with a little bit of your background, especially being from Afghanistan. It's an area that a lot of people don't understand, and even myself. And so whatever you want a context about your story and your journey and how Afghanistan and how maybe it's different, or how, anything about that to give us some context before we go into some of the other major themes of your book.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was born in Afghanistan back in 1973. And when I was 7 years old, the Soviets invaded. And so we had to escape. And it was sort of like The Sound of Music, the Von Trapp family as they're escaping through the mountains. So I think I have a lot of issues around safety because of that original experience of fight, flight, survival. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why I'm so attracted to the chakras and I find them so useful, is because they can really help you feel safer in the world. And because we immigrated from Afghanistan when I was so young and we came to America, back then I remember my high school and my elementary school, there were so few people from other countries. It's usually like 3 foreign kids and everyone else is white American. So it was hard to feel that sense of belonging, where now for my nieces and nephews, it's like such a normal thing to have people from all over the world in one school. So I think that experience of immigrating from such a young age made me have a lot of issues of identity, like who am I, where do I belong? And when I was younger, I didn't have that compassion and understanding towards my family. It was more like, hey, what happened? Why did my family bring us here? And it was trying to live in these two worlds of trying to being Afghan and being American. And, in these last 2 years, Afghanistan has been in the news so much. And that has really been so challenging for myself and for my family, because I do have family back home that are having a really difficult, challenging time. And I've had to use every single resource and tool in this chakra book to actually, stay positive and stay hopeful and stay energized, and using lots of prayers to make sure that they're safe and that we have a way of, bringing them out. So it's been quite the journey.
And you even had another name for a while. And I thought that was interesting because I remember during that time, my father also, his family changed their last name. They were Spanish and Ukrainian, actually, and then they decided to change your name to Chevalier, which was neither, because they thought it would, French would sound really cool, but they didn't want to have to deal with, any type of discrimination. So I like that journey about you, because it's so individual to you and how you kind of went back to your original name. So could you explain that a little bit, because it's in your book?
Yes, that's the story I share in my foreword. My family, unlike some other families, when they came to the US, they did not want to integrate. They were really wanting to keep our Afghan identity, and that was really important to them. So my name Masuda actually means prosperous one, and it's an Afghan name. And when I started elementary school, people teased me a lot about my name. They called me Menudo and Medusa, and I really had a complex. And also when we came here, financially, we struggled, for a long time. So we had to buy things from yard sales. So I was kind of the dorky kid that had mismatched clothes and just didn't fit in for a long time. And then when I was graduated from high school, I wanted to get a job at a grocery store in Vienna called Magruder's. And one of the reasons I wanted to work there was because there was this really handsome boy. He had blue eyes and blonde hair, and he worked there, and he was one of the managers there. And I just thought we were destined to be together. And I convinced my family to let me work there. And I remember sitting outside with the application. And I just was like, if I write my name, Masuda, it's just going to be like high school. People are going to tease me. I'm not going to belong, and I'll have no chance with this this American boy. And I remember at the time I watched General Hospital. That was my favorite soap opera. And there's a woman in there named Anna Devane, and she was beautiful. She was strong. She had long black hair. She was stylish. She was the police chief of Port Charles, for those of you that watched General Hospital. And I wanted to be just like her. So on the application, I wrote her name, Anna Mohamadi.
Wow.
And I applied and I got the job, and everyone called me Anna. And this handsome American boy flirted with me and liked me. But not only that, it was like the first time that a lot of the other boys would flirt with me and paid attention to me. And back then in my mind, I thought, oh, it's just this name. So if I'm Anna Mohamadi, I have a chance to really have a totally different life. And I was Anna Mohamadi until I started the Kundalini teacher training many, many years later. And for those of you that practice yoga and meditation and do a teacher training, that you know that it's such a powerful transformative journey in which makes you really question everything in your life and gives you a new sense of awareness. And it was in that training that I thought, well, who am I? Am I really Masuda or am I Anna? And the timing of it was just so right that I was ready to embrace my identity and really where I came from and kind of be proud of my name.
Yeah.
So that was.
Well, first of all, I want to, obviously myself and all my colleagues and supporters and friends, we're going to just send out a big hug to all of your family and everybody that's struggling in Afghanistan. I mean, that's such a big topic, but right now I just want to send them a big thoughtful hug and hope that things get better for them. And that your family is safe. And yeah, the word safety is I try to explain to a lot of people that just that word safety, as soon as you said it, I just got like tingles all over. It's such a big word for me. And I'm not sure how males feel about it, but just even my female friends that have been through different traumas, the word safety. It's like, if you feel safe, then you can heal, you can explore, you can forgive, you can, I don't know, but if you don't have that basic fundamental word of safety, and I was thinking about, I wonder what it's like in Afghanistan about chakras and things like that, because they have a lot of religious stuff too, but how can they even explore this if they're not feeling safe yet?
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully we can get that. If that gets, you can bring this to them in the future and you can help, a little bit farther. So, you specifically work a lot with Kundalini, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So could you just, for most of my listeners know what chakras are, but what is your explanation and how does it work with Kundalini?
So Kundalini yoga is the yoga of awareness, and it really helps to work on the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual aspects. So when you take a Kundalini yoga class, you start off with a chant at the beginning of class to really tune you in and focus. There's a lot of breath work. You use the body locks. There's a lot of fast, rhythmic, repetitive movements to bring in lots of prana. Prana is that life-giving energy. And it's that prana that really helps to move the energy through the nadis, through the channels. And so with this infusion of energy coming in through the breath work, through the postures, through the meditation, through the chanting, it just opens you up to that different level of awareness. So Kundalini energy resides at the base of the spine, and it's part of all yoga practices. And sometimes that energy awakens from some powerful life experience, but it can also awaken gradually through our yoga and meditation practice. And when that energy awakens, it starts to move up your central channel, that Shushmana, and it penetrates and moves through each of your chakras. And as it does, it helps to release any issues or knots or binds that may be present in each of the chakras. And then once it's awakened, it really helps to connect you with your true nature, and all of your innate gifts are awakened. And you just feel happier and healthier and yourself.
Absolutely. The spine is, to me, where the center of where our spirituality connection with our body and the universe and the spine is it. And, I always do meditations, like, and you have the same similars, earth and cosmic connections and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So,
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved your forward as well, which was one of your teachers, correct?
Yes, Anadea Judith.
Yeah. And so did she put you on this type of specific Kundalini work, or?
What's interesting is my first yoga class was a kind of vinyasa hatha class. And I liked it, but it wasn't significant. I took the class and I was like, well, that's nice. I stretched. And then I
Yeah.
really didn't do yoga for a few years. And then I was in West Virginia and I was leading a 30-day program for high school students, seniors from West Virginia, to really build up their confidence and their sense of self before they went to college. Because sometimes, you get a bad rap from being West Virginia and there's all these stereotypes. But these were like brilliant kids. And different people from West Virginia would come visit them. And the poet laureate came to give us a whole session on writing and poetry. And when she walked into the room, there was 20 of us, and she was like, "The energy's all wrong here." And I was like, I don't know what that means or what you're talking about at the time. But she started doing these Kundalini yoga poses with us, like this breath of fire and moving powerfully and chanting. And it lasted about 30 or 40 minutes. And it was one of the most amazing things I'd ever experienced. I just felt like I was high and expansive. And I ran up to her and I was like, "What was that?" And she said, "Oh, that's Kundalini yoga." And I said, "Okay, I want more of it." So I came back to DC and I found one place that taught it and I started taking classes and I just got hooked. And Anadea Judith, actually, she teaches more hatha yoga, but she was the person that really helped me understand chakras in a practical and useful way. So Kundalini yoga is the spiritual, like the transcendent, the subtle. But the work with Anadea Judith was practical and it helped transform my relationship with the material world. So I was one of those people that was just so connected to spirit, but my everyday life was a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So those lower chakras I was disconnected from, and I wanted to stay disconnected because it actually felt safer just to be in my mind and just to meditate. But it was really out of balance. So she was that component that was missing for me to say, hey, the chakras are about creating this relationship with the material world, but also the spiritual world. And that was really my intention because I meet a lot of people that are very successful in the material world, but don't have that access to spirit. And then people that are so spiritual and angelic, but yet they really have a hard time in day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But once you're able to create that balance, it's like then you're unstoppable.
And the first time I ever did Kundalini, I had the same experience. I was just a book. I was sitting in my house, I was watching a video or something. I was so high afterwards. I just was, it enlightened so many. It was like breath of fire, right? That breath of fire really was like fire. I just felt like alive and vibrant. And I'm just telling you, holy moly, breath of fire was still my favorite I've ever done because it just, and it really will blow open. And I think, can you tell us a little bit about breath of fire? Does it really focus a lot on the root chakra? That one?
It's root, but also navel. So a lot of navel because it's awakening that fire energy. But it's also great for your heart center because your lungs are opening and expanding. So it's a rhythmic in and out. So as you inhale, you're actually relaxing your whole abdominal area. But as you exhale, you pull in and up. So the exhale is what's really active. The inhale is a relax, exhale, pull in and up. But then the important part is that the inhale, exhale are equal in length. So you're not doing a longer exhale. So it sounds like this. So it's like a steam engine. Okay. And it's really strengthening your navel center, expanding your breath capacity. It just makes you feel powerful and empowered. And so when you add breath of fire to any yoga pose, I think it really helps to accelerate the benefit of that pose.
And it's actually kind of helpful because it's almost involuntary.
Yes.
If you do it, you can't help but breathe in the right amount of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So can we start at the root chakra, talk a little bit about the root chakra?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Root chakra, your foundation, your base, relates to the earth element. So like you said earlier, that foundation. So when your root chakra is balanced, you feel healthy, you feel comfortable in your body, you're able to take care of day-to-day things. You have a really loving relationship with the body. You feel safe and you're trusting. You're trusting of your own abilities in life. You're trusting that the world is a safe place and that whatever resources you need are going to come your way. There's that beautiful symbol at the very bottom. It's like a lotus flower with 4 petals. And in the book, it's a nice explanation of how does it feel when your root chakra is balanced, how it feels when it's imbalanced, or deficient or excessive. So that's a big thing we talk about in the book is your chakras are either balanced, excessive, or deficient in energy. So when there's deficient, it means you're not really able to access the gifts of that chakra. So when your first chakra is balanced, you feel safe, you feel grounded, you feel stable, and you're able to access the gifts of patience and acceptance because the earth is the most solid and creates the most resistance. So sometimes we really can't change things and we can't change where we come from. We can't change that or we can't change our families. And so it's so helpful to be able to say, this is a moment to be patient with the situation, or this is a moment to really accept where I am and accept these relationships in my life.
Well, the word resistance really, I felt that, especially myself or other people. I could just, as soon as you said resistance, it went boom. And a lot of, so my training was in clairvoyant healings as well. So when we would look at the chakras, the first chakra on maybe 60 to 70% of people were shut down or the worst. And so I used to tell them, the first chakra is normal for the first, and it was always where we started, right? So then they were like, is this going to be just the worst reading and healing in my life? Tell them it actually gets a little easier if we lighten up the first chakra. Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely. And one thing that I learned that's so helpful is let's connect our root chakra with our crown chakra. Because sometimes if we just focus on the root, it can feel so heavy. But it's like, let's connect it with the heart chakra and bring some love into whatever you're feeling or whatever that situation is. Or let's connect with the divine. And once these chakras sort of feel like, I'm not out here all by myself, that there are all these other chakras that are strong and balanced to support me, I think that can really shift things.
Well, I don't even know how to do that. How do you connect your first chakra and your crown to help you? You just draw a line, or what?
It's more like you close your eyes, you go within, and you feel those parts of your body, right? You feel you feel your feet, you feel your legs, and you feel the earth. And you think, okay, well, how does that feel? How does that feel in my body? And first chakra is where our fears come, right? That's where a lot of the imbalance happens. Is there's a fear that makes us not feel safe, that makes us not feel trusting. And so first you want to just listen to the fear, like, hey, what is the strong fear right now that's kind of getting me off balance? And then you listen to it completely, but then you put a hand on your heart. You just put a hand on your heart and you say, this is a place of infinite love. This is a place of infinite love and gratitude. And I'm just going to send that loving energy to my root chakra. And I'm going to remind fear that love and fear, they're both here. They're both here. And how can I hold these at the same time? Yes, the fear is here to protect me. Yeah. But there's also love here to just soften everything so that it's the loving coach or guide or teacher that's here with me as I work through this fear.
Yeah. And when I say the word resistance, it's sort of like, you have here that you can also feel sluggish. I mean, this is really mind, body, spirit. Sometimes sluggish, you had a bad night's sleep or, you're overworked or whatever, but it could be the chakra imbalance. If you are resistant to change, for example, if, something really triggers you. I also feel like there's a lot of heavier energy in the first chakra, such as anger. You agree with that?
Yeah. There's one simple exercise that is so powerful for resistance. You lay on your back, you have your feet on the ground, your knees bent, and you start kicking the ground as hard as you can. And you do this breath that goes, ha, 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 ha. So it's almost like you're a 2-year-old having a tantrum. And you just start hitting the floor with your feet and your hands. Yes. And then you go, ha, 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 ha. And you do that for a minute. And what it does is it just breaks the resistance. And you just feel lighter and better.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to go have a tantrum after this.
Yes. Sometimes we think things are going to be so hard and complicated, but seriously, it's like 1 or 2 minutes of some pose will shift and reset the whole energy. I did it this morning. It was amazing.
Is that unique to your teaching, or did you learn that through someone else? Because you had some things that I have never heard of before.
I
No.
learned that from Anna Judith because she's a psychologist, she's a therapist.
Okay.
And as she was working with people, she was finding that talk therapy wasn't doing it for a lot of people to create the change. So she started to do bioenergetics, and bioenergetics is using movement in a specific way with breath to release blockages. And so for each chakra, I've included 1 or 2 or 3 bioenergetic exercises that just kind of gets to that shift and change very quickly. And then if you do it on a regular basis for a few weeks, you'll really notice a shift in that chakra.
That is why this book is so amazing, because I think that was the element that was missing for some people. To be honest, it's like, and I these bioenergetics that you're talking about, that they're very unique, and I see them, I go, wow, that I can see how that really opens it up. Honestly, I of course did all the tapping and things like that. Tapping really never did too much for me. I mean, it would help a little bit, and I would show it to people to see if it would be a good tool for them. But I honestly think that this is like an elevation to tapping, because I can see the body alignment in your pictures, that it's really helping to open up the different parts.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm looking right now at the throat chakra warm up, the different ones for that.
Yes, yes, yes. And you know what? The most powerful thing I do in a throat chakra workshop is people just turning their head from side to side and saying no. And saying no. Because so many of us, especially women, are always wanting to be there, wanting to serve, wanting to help. And we say yes to a lot of things that then create such disharmony in our own bodies. But we want to please, we want to be liked, we want to be helpful. So for people, it's so powerful to be like, you can say no, like ground down with your feet and your legs, feel that foundation, feel the fire in your belly, and then say no. Say it nicely, but you just keep going back and forth and just saying no out loud. And that in itself can be very empowering.
Yeah, it's giving you permission to, accept how you feel in that given position. And it is really hard. I think it's hard, really hard.
Yes.
Dang, it really is, especially in the world that we're in. Okay, so I'm going to go to the sacral chakra, which is right below your belly button.
Right below your belly button, your sex organs, your back. This is the seat of joy and passion. So the first chakra is safety. Like, hey, I'm going to do everything to be safe. It's about survival and security. Chakra 2 suddenly is about, I feel safe. I have a house. I have a car. I have food in the fridge. Now it's time to have some fun. Like, what are you passionate about? What motivates you to get up in the mornings? What brings you pleasure? So chakra 1 is what you need, but chakra 2 is what do you want? And it's the water element. So you're more flowing.
But also I used to call it the ocean of emotion when I was,
yes.
When I was doing healings on people.
Yes.
And I could see a lot of people, this is like, something like triggered you, you're up, 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 and then you go down, down, down. And it's sort of like, yeah. So.
Yes. And emotions are just energy in motion. They're just energy in motion. Actually, I was listening to your podcast with the woman that wrote The Elements. That was such a great podcast. And
Yeah,
she was talking, yes, and she was talking about our emotions and what do we do with them.
Yeah.
And chakras are a way to help us feel emotions without the judgments. Like, hey, this is just energy moving through my body, and this is how I recognize it. And each emotion has a purpose.
Yes. Amazing. And also, because it is with the sexual organs, can you get other people's energy trapped in your chakras? How do you explain that?
I explain it through the aura. So the aura is that electromagnetic field that surrounds you, and it is a reflection of everything that's happening within you. So it's a reflection of the energy of all the chakras. And sometimes if the chakras are out of balance, then that aura can be weak. And if the aura is weak, then you will feel other people's emotions and thoughts much more than your own.
Mm.
And then sometimes it's hard to distinguish, is that what I'm feeling in that chakra, or is it just that I'm picking up these other people's feelings and thoughts and emotions? So there's a whole chapter on the aura and different exercises to really feel like you're grounded and rooted in your own energy, and there's enough space between you and other people so they really can't penetrate in.
Yeah, I had that experience this weekend on a trip because an old friend came to town, and we had a 5-hour drive. And I normally have my own like energetic setups before I am around a lot of people because I'm an empath and I do this work. So I'm just sort of like, it glues to me, right? If I don't do my processes, I could feel it. But I was so excited to see this person, and so we just were in the car for 5 hours. By the time the end of that night or the next morning, I started to feel like an anger, like a really deep, like I wanted to scream, like anger, and I was getting set off by everybody. Just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and it's not their fault, but that was what was in their space. And it took me a few days. I came home, and I actually was like, we need to do a healing and I worked on myself, and I saw it, and it was really, it literally soaked up into me. And then I don't yell. I yelled. I don't yell. That's just not, even if I'm really upset, I really kind of can stay here. Right. Very, maybe when I was a child or something, but, and it was very interesting because it felt so foreign. And so if people don't really work on getting these other, especially if you have a close, like a husband or wife that you love so much, you're next to them all the time, and you're individual and you're working on stuff, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like if they're sad all the time and that's not your normal state, you're picking up on that. So to me, it's all about mothering yourself at the moment and then helping other people. But first you have to, so looking at that aura and going back to your book and maybe figuring out like how can they, and the book is the Unlock Your Power of the Chakras again. And I will link everything here. Look how big it is. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's all color coordinated. I love this color coordinated thing. But that's such a great chapter for people that don't know how to do that.
Absolutely. And one way to keep your chakras balanced in your aura is a daily practice.
Yes.
And it can be as short as 5 minutes. It's like pick one thing that helps you to feel good and grounded. It can be a movement, it can be a meditation, it can be journaling, it can be sitting outside. But once you have something like that you commit to on a daily basis, that's really what helps you to keep grounded. And there are days when you might miss it, but once you commit to that, you always come back to it. I mean, there's days where I don't get to meditate, but I can't ever go more than 2 or 3 days without coming back to the practice because it's such a lifelong habit now. Yeah. And sometimes people feel like, oh, I have to do 30 minutes or I have to do 2 hours or I have to do 45 minutes. And it's like, you don't. Sometimes all you need is 5 or 15 minutes to make that commitment. And that's what really helps to make a difference when you're around other people that have, other things going on, and so that you don't pick it up, or that if you do pick it up, you come back to that practice, just like you did.
And a lot of times, sometimes I'll do it in the car, and I've had teachers say, I don't recommend that. Well, maybe that's not the preferred way to do it. Yeah, it's better to be in a chair with my feet on the ground. But sometimes I forget, and I'm on my way to a meeting, and I'll just ground myself. I'll ground my car. I'll do my protection energy, So it literally can be anywhere at any time.
I agree. I think sometimes when we try to do the ideal, then it just becomes too challenging, and then we're not able to keep up. So it's like, do what's real for you. Like what is practical and doable for you in your life at this moment.
So the navel chakra, I mean, I see a lot of people, a lot of people. The first chakra is the number one that's blown out. And for the ones, what I see, the third chakra is the other one that's blown out. And can you tell me a little bit about maybe why?
Yes, so third chakra is the warrior in you. So this is the navel center, it's the fire energy. So we go from earth to water to fire. This is the doer in you. So when it's balanced, you're able to get through that to-do list, you're able to achieve goals, you have a healthy sense of self, and you have a healthy ego. And a healthy ego is super important. Some spiritual people are like, oh, I'm egoless. Well, if you're egoless, then you're nothing. You need that I that helps you to maintain boundaries and to have accomplishments and achieve goals. If your navel center is deficient, there's that lack of self-worth. There's not a strong I, and it's almost like we've been disempowered.
Yeah.
Or if it's excessive, then our whole sense of self-worth comes from doing, and it's never enough. So in a balanced third chakra, there's a healthy amount of doing, but our sense of self-worth comes from something much deeper within ourselves. So this is a place where you connect your third chakra with your sixth chakra, or your third eye. So
Okay.
you see yourself as a spiritual being, you see yourself as a soul, you see yourself as light, and you connect to the bigger purpose of your life. And that helps to balance the self-preservation and self-promotion. Because if we just stay in the third chakra, it's all about self-promotion and self-preservation. It's a lot of me, my survival, my needs, my goals. So then you can become a narcissist if your energy gets stuck there. But if you connect it to a higher chakra, you sort of see the bigger purpose in life and this idea of serving something greater than yourself. Like you're serving others right now. Like you've learned, you're wise, and you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to give back to people."
Yeah.
This podcast is really there to help people, to heal people, to give them resources. So you've moved beyond your third chakra for something greater than just serving your own needs.
And I've really liked that you mentioned that about ego, because I've heard that before as well. And, I always go back to the beginning of time with, if we didn't have ego, everybody would have just laid around and like not try to build the wheel or not try to make life better, or,
Yes.
so
Yes.
that's the positive ego that you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, you need that energy to go out, or otherwise we would just laid around.
Yeah, we would just sit around and watch a lot of Netflix.
So I love that. And also I see that the excessive energy that's stuck in this is controlling. And I do see a lot of people that they can't get out. I love it how sometimes they go, I know I'm controlling. I know that I'm a controlling person, and that I'm stubborn and I'm controlling. And so that's pretty much this chakra, correct?
Yes, yes. And often what happens is something outside of their control happens, and then they have no choice but to surrender,
Yeah.
right? So we can either consciously surrender and trust in the process of life, or unfortunately, something happens that's very devastating or difficult or challenging. And then you really have to use those higher chakras to say, okay, this is beyond my control, and I have no choice but to surrender to it.
Yeah. Let's get to the heart chakra then real quickly.
Heart chakra is my favorite chakra. Maybe you're not supposed to have a favorite chakra, but it is mine. That's beautiful. This is the air element, and this is all about our relationships with other people, giving and receiving love, gratitude, compassion, self-compassion, balance. This chakra allows us to know when we are in balance, and also in relationships to recognize if you're the giver or the receiver. And is that working for you, or is that depleting you?
Interesting. And some of the excess energy in here, because I think is interesting: clingy, possessive, poor boundaries, codependent, people pleasing, needing for attention and approval. When that is out of balance, when your heart chakra is out of balance, those are some of the excessive energies in this place.
Exactly.
Yeah. And yes, good boundaries are really important. They can be hard to tackle, especially if you've been taking care of somebody their whole, or in a situation, when you realize that you're down with that boundary. That's Can be tough.
It can be tough because boundaries, when you put down a boundary with someone, they're going to resist it and it's going to create conflict. So if we're conflict averse, then we may continue with some behaviors that are not always good for us. And so it helps to once again connect with that fire, that sense of self in your navel. Like, hey, you deserve healthy, happy, meaningful, authentic relationships. You know, like I deserve healthy, happy, supportive, authentic relationships. And trusting that you have the power and the resources to create that in your life. And whatever resistance or challenge is coming to you, the resources within you are greater than that. It's really changing a belief within yourself of that you are more powerful and greater than any challenge that is coming your way. And a great mantra is, I can handle this. I can handle this. I can handle whatever comes my way.
I can handle it. I
I can handle it.
can handle this. Everybody, let's just say, I can handle this. I love that. I can handle it. Yeah, it's really hard because as you kind of evolve and change too, it's so weird. I was thinking about this letter today. One of my best friends years ago, that I adored this woman. We talked like 3 times a day, like going to work. I would call her instead of my mom, I would call her in the morning to work, we would just and then all of a sudden she wrote me a letter and said I didn't want to be friends anymore. And I literally was just devastated. Oh my God. Like my heart hurts so much. And in her letter, she said, you change too much. And it makes me anxious because it makes me feel like I'm not changing enough. And I don't want to change. And and now actually, I was really grateful to have that because I didn't feel such sorrow of losing the friendship anymore. I understood that me changing a lot created shame or anxiety for her. Not that I was giving it to her, but everybody has their own time, and not that there wasn't love between us, but I just needed, that was creating a resistance for her. So, I'm not sure what's important about that, but I was thinking about that today. So I just wanted to bring it up.
One, it's great that she was so honest with you. Like she was so honest and made herself vulnerable, being like, this is how it makes me feel. But the other thing that touches upon is grief, because grief is a loss. And that's related to the heart chakra. So here's this friendship that meant so much to you. And when it's gone, it's like, oh, my heart is grieving. And we feel that in that heart center. And it's important for us to recognize that this is what grief feels like. And then to also say, okay, what do I need to feel okay? Or what's going to be most comforting and supportive for me as I move through this loss in my life?
Yeah. And I still have love for her. It's a weird thing. When I love somebody, that never changes. I will always love that person, even if I don't see her, talk to them anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that's really an interesting subject. Someday we could talk about. We talked about the throat chakra a little bit. Let's get to the third eye then, because this is about intuition and.
Yes, this is your light. Intuition is clear seeing. How do you see the world? How do you see yourself? And it's your ability to see the bigger patterns in your life. So you're getting out of the weeds and the day-to-day details, and you're kind of climbing up to the mountaintop and you're saying, I see clearly, or finally I see the patterns and I'm not going to keep repeating these same issues. And it's also recognizing that you're divine and other people are divine, and acknowledging that there is more than just the material world, more than just relationships. And you're really, chakra 5, 6, and 7 are the spiritual realms, the subtle realms, this understanding of, hey, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience.
And say if you overconsume in social media or television or I feel like sometimes when I do healings or readings on people, this is kind of full of programming and other things. So this is right.
Yeah, one thing that's very healing for the third eye is to look at things that are beautiful to you. So if you're watching a show that's very violent, or even if you're reading too much or taking in too much information, there can really be this overload, which can then affect your sleep. It can also affect your creative thinking. So it's like, what do you do to sort of go within and quiet everything?
Yeah.
Time in nature is one of the most healing things for the third eye chakra. It's just looking out at trees or looking up at the sky, looking at a majestic mountain. It's bringing more awe into your life. Like, when was the last time you just felt in awe of something?
Yeah, and I think it kind of numbs the senses all the way down. Like, I mean, it just kind of, if it's too much,
If it's too
and
much.
then you have to self preserve your own mind and this energy space and say, oh, I've been on for a couple hours. I need to check out. I need to go off. It's sort of like you have to self manage yourself if you're going to be like, X amount of social media is too long. And a lot of this is for the teenagers that have grown up around social media, and
Yes.
understanding that it is programmed by very intelligent people for it to be addictive.
Yes.
And so letting this space have a little breathing room, you know,
Exactly.
and if
Exactly.
people are depressed or feeling obsessed about something happening in there, usually this space that is having a hard time, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. Because there needs to be some change, or it's almost like there's too much negativity online. And then you just start to think in that negative way and see everything through a negative lens, including yourself. So, like, for me, when I start to get like that, I'll turn to an inspirational book or an inspirational movie, and suddenly it's like, oh, my heart is open and I see things from a different light. So it's knowing what inspires you and being able to quickly tap into that when you start to feel that negativity or that drain happening.
And you kind of break it out from conception to 11 years old to adolescence to young adults, maturity to being an elder. What is that breakdown for?
That is to figure out your life purpose.
Okay.
And life purpose is something that's very general, and it's something that we are born with, and it's an innate gift. And so sometimes people are a little lost in life, or they're in transition and they're not sure what to do, and they're saying, I don't know what my life purpose is. And it can be something very like to teach, because some people from a young age were teaching other people and it came very natural to them, or to organize. Have you met friends that are just so good at organizing things, and they'll come over and they'll just organize your closet and organize your kitchen? Or there's people that are artists or painters or social activists. So if you go back into your childhood and you look at the memories that really stand out, and from that, you can sort of divine the activities where you felt most alive and most connected. And that can kind of give you an idea of life purpose.
And I love that because sometimes when we're young and we haven't been bombarded with a lot of different things, there's just this big giant idea of who we want to be, and sometimes that can get poo-pooed as we get older.
Yes.
But if you're missing something in life, you can go back to that. Say if you wanted to be a musician your whole life and you went to school and then all of a sudden it wasn't making any money, and then you're like missing on something, and you're like, well, maybe going back to music, going back to what made me happy when I was 11 or what like that. So it's really interesting information. Let us go to the next, which is the crown chakra.
Crown chakra is your awareness and your relationship to your mind, your relationship to your thoughts. I love asking people, like, what do you think about predominantly during the day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it related to survival? Is it related to passion and excitement? Is it related to work? Is it related to your relationships? What are we thinking about? What is that relationship with your mind? It's relationship to spirituality. Like, what do you believe? What is your relationship to spirit? What are spiritual practices that make you feel connected to the divine? And it's also looking at your belief system. Most of us, when we're younger, think about our beliefs. Like, college was the ideal time when you're like, oh, I'm learning new things, I'm growing, I'm not going to do what my family did. I'm really going to look at society and the world and different religions and explore. But as adults, we get so busy in day-to-day life that we don't necessarily take that time to say, well, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about safety? What do I believe about money? What do I believe about the world? Because often if we have some core negative beliefs, they can really get in the way of us moving forward in life.
Yeah. And a lot of times I feel like it could be family influence too. That maybe, you know, your family is one way and they believe one thing and they kind of don't want you to kind of go out, and because now that makes them feel like, wow, they start to feel shame. They don't want you to heal, but you know what I mean? But this is a really great
Yes.
place for you to figure out, what do you believe in? You don't have
What
to
do you believe in?
you don't have to go to the family and say, we're all going to do this now. It doesn't mean anything. I think that's a really good point, because people sometimes, you know, just because I believe something or do something, you know, I'm not going to try to get my partner to do everything. You know, that's also just a lose-lose game. Just follow your own thing, and either they come with you and it lines up, or, you know, it doesn't. And it's everybody's
Or
own life
doesn't.
journey. Yeah.
I think
So that,
one of the biggest beliefs that changed for me from the chakra work was, money is related to your first chakra and financial stability. And for a long time, I didn't realize that I had a lot of negative beliefs about money. Like, I didn't want money. I thought money was about corruption, and I really prided myself in how little I could live on. I opened a yoga studio and when I opened a business, that belief was in direct conflict to having a successful. And I got and success and financial stability and abundance. So I started tracking my finances. I started saying different affirmations, and it was amazing. It took a long time. It took about a year, but since that time, my relationship with finances has completely transformed. But if I have never gone into my belief system, I might have stayed stuck in that one place because my actions and my beliefs were sort of going against each other.
yeah, and a lot of people are kind of told or promoted that, you know, if you're going to get into the spiritual side, at least back, you know, when it's, you know, people are starting to understand that it's separate, but they would say, you know, you have to go in service and you have to get rid of all your belongings and things like that.
It's true, but you have to pay rent and you have to pay teachers and have to be you have to have the skills and the belief that I'm creating this beautiful community for people to come and practice yoga and meditation. But in order to do that, to keep flowing in, to support it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then let's get to, you have the 8th listed here, which not a lot of people do. That's the aura. So that's going back to that, what you call the 8th chakra is now also the aura. Hello.
No.
Hello.
Important because it's like this egg-shaped energy, and it really helps you to feel safe, supported, and it's your radiance and your charisma. Like, people where they just walk into a room and they light it up, and those are the people where their auras are really bright, light, and beautiful. And we can all have that. We can all have that beautiful, bright aura.
And you have a beautiful, bright aura. And I love your book. Unlock the Powers of the Chakras. Like I said, again, it's beautiful. It's all color coded. And Masuda is the actual model, modeling all the different postures. And it's just a really wonderful book. And I just think that anybody that would love to just dive into, there's so much information in here. I mean, there's little workbooks in here explaining how this must have just taken so long.
It did. It took a long time.
It's really beautifully done. Thank you to Llewellyn Two Publications. They're a great publisher. They
Amazing.
support people like me and you and many others. And they have I believe they have a true purpose to get out information to people to help them. And so do you, and so do I. So thank you for your time today and your story and opening up and doing the work to put this out. We really appreciate you, Masuda. And I'm going to link everything, all your bio, where to find the book. And it's been really a pleasure to have you on the Liberated Healer podcast today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. So wonderful to connect with you. Really appreciate it. Lovely to chat.
You have going out, maybe a couple minutes, a little meditation or energy that we could do, or something you can leave with us?
Yeah, there's a beautiful mantra that really is great for emotional and mental balance, and it's just sa, ta, na, ma. It means infinity, life, death, rebirth. It's the cycle of life. So anytime we're in change or transition, you just chant sa, ta,
Sa,
na, ma.
sa,
Sa, ta, na, ma.
sa, ta, na, ma.
Perfect.
Yay! Well, I'm going to go and do that right now, I think. Well, thank you again. And this has been the Liberated Healer podcast. I'm Gina Cavalier. And we hope you are doing well. And bye for now. Bye. Thank you, Masuda.
Thank you.